distributors, or male distributors, do we have in the room? Couple? All right. How many spouses? How many guys just came because there was going to be a lot of women here?
Steve? Where's Steve at? Where's Steve? I know we're like Steve.
What I want to talk a little bit about is for the spouses in the room, or the spouses that aren't, at home, or are at home because they didn't come for some reason. What we've seen over the last 3 or 4 years is that the male kind of counterparts tend to fall into 3 categories. They're either all in with you in the business and 100% supportive. They are supportive but not really have anything to do with the business. It's kind of your deal. Or they're really negative and they don't want any part to do with it, and they're actually probably hurting your business. So I want to kind of dissect those a little bit, and then I want to talk a little bit about the dynamic of working with your spouse in a business like this, because that can be a challenge for a lot of people, and we've really seen that over the last few years of people struggling with that from the standpoint of roles changing in the household and things just becoming different when hopefully everybody in this room becomes super successful, but with that comes a lot of change. All right, so let's talk about the negative spouses first. When we got on board, we were 100%. I mean, we decided to do the business together. But with that being said, I also knew I had to practice full time, and I was gone most days during the week. So I knew that Nikki was primarily going to be running the business, right? I mean, it's like kind of how we went into it. So I was supportive, but at that time I can't say I wasn't 100%. I was 100% for the business opportunity because we really saw a lot of promise with that. But just from a time standpoint, I wasn't there 100% at that time.
You weren't in the negative.
Definitely not. No, definitely not. Yes. So now let's start with the negative. That's fine. Oh, okay. They're probably not here anyway, so they won't know we're going to talk about them. But it's tough. Does anybody have spouses that didn't come tonight? Because I don't want to put the guys in here. But that you struggle with a little bit with the business. Time away from the family. They think they're spending too much money. They think it's not going to work for you, right? I mean, those type of things. I think the biggest thing that you really have to do moving forward is try to get them to a corporate event. I know that's probably going to be like moving mountains for a lot of you, but I mean, Scott's going out already again, but he went to his first event last night, and I just think that is so important for them to see the big picture. A lot of times I think that they see you, this is just your little business that you do at home, and you're never going to make anything of it. But when they go and they hear from corporate, and they hear from top leaders in the country, and they hear from people who started with nothing and moved up that pay scale, I think that they really start to see, they start to see it as a bigger thing than just you. So I think that that's the most important thing that you can do. Any advice for the negative guys out there?
Negative one is hard. It's so hard. I know it's hard because I see so many underlying factors when I talk with people whose spouses are negative. And I think the biggest thing for them is it's such a shift. It's such a shift for them. It's very hard for them to change gears, because I know that when we got started, Kris was on board, so I didn't have that total negative. I didn't have that negative with it, but we had struggles because I think that sometimes the guys get used to your role. I don't know about what you were like before you got into It Works, but I was a good wife and I was a good mother. I was the mom that never left my kids. I was the wife that always had dinner on the table. My house was spotless. That was my identity. My identity was I have good, clean kids in a nice, well-kept house, and I make a nice meal, and that was my role. And I did that on top of teaching too. But what happens when you get in this business is, your house is not nice and well kept. Your kids are crazy. There's not a lot of extra energy at the end of the day. Okay? I'm just saying. You're tired, right? You are running a multi-million-dollar business and your husband doesn't like it. And that sometimes comes into play. So I think it's really one of the best ways to combat that negativity is in the front, the very first. I wish somebody would have told me this. I mean, I can't believe that Denise and Brandon never had problems, but I know Brandon was the one that was all in first. But I wish I would have had somebody tell me, it's good, it might get kind of ugly. You know, it might not be very pretty. We had ugly moments in our marriage from this business, and he supported me. Because there wasn't dinner on the table, and I would get remarks like, what are we going to eat tonight?
Not for me, right?
No. From the kids. The kids would say, what time are you going to put the kids to bed? What are we having for dinner? I don't know, what are we having for dinner? You know? I mean, things like that come up because that was my role. You know, it'd be the same thing as if he didn't bring a paycheck home, that was his role. I'd be like, who's paying our bills, right? So I would feel the same way. So get it on the table and say, you know what, honey? I am going to be out a couple nights this week, and it's really kind of stinks, but if you put yourself in that role, then maybe if you can try to brainstorm meal planning with him, say, I'm gonna start picking up some of the slack financially, so I need you to pick up some of the slack housework-wise. And they don't want you to get in this business so they can change diapers. They really don't. And we've talked about it before about the man, help your wife change diapers, help your wife clean the house. That doesn't work for every man. That's not the position. And I'm not trying to be too gender specific, and I'm not trying to like pigeonhole people into roles, but it's true. When you're married and you've been married for 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years, you have established roles, just like you have established roles with friendships. You do. So make sure that you lay out those parameters and just get it out in the front and be like, you know what, honey, I'm sorry, but there's not going to be dinner on this, this, and this, and this night, but there's pizza that you can throw in the oven. And I did go out and get the pizza, so it's there. You don't have to go to the store too. That is the best way to combat it, because you're going to do this, but it's going to be worth it. You know, but that would be my biggest advice, would be to just lay that foundation out ahead of time.
Absolutely. I think, you know, the biggest thing in marriage, I think, you know, this sounds like a counseling thing. So I didn't really want to say it, no. But the biggest thing in marriage is communication. And I think when you introduce a business like this, and again, you know, whether you're just starting or whether you've been in a while, ideally the ultimate goal is to be very successful with this business. So we just want to kind of, you know, these things are going to come up as, you know, as they come along. So let's move on to the supportive husband that is totally, you know, behind you with this, but really doesn't want to do a whole lot with the business, which again is a very valuable role. It is certainly much better than the, you know, the negative, anti, you know, person in the relationship. I think the biggest thing with that person is to get them involved. You know, you tell them or ask them how they would like to be a part of your business. You know, what can they do to help you? Especially if they're already kind of, you know, beating around the bush, acting like they kind of want to be a little bit more a part of it. Because trust me, as you get more successful, he's going to be a lot closer to you. That's just the way that it works. So what you need to do is just really try to bring him into the business. Again, getting them to corporate events is huge. Getting them in touch with other guys in the business, I think, is, you know, just of utmost importance. We've surrounded ourselves over the last couple of years, you know, with a lot of other people, you know, at the top of this business, because that's what we were striving for. You know, we wanted to go to the top, so we wanted to know what they were doing, you know, to get there. So I think that's very important.
Couples too.
Well, definitely, absolutely, absolutely. So I think that to be able to get them into the business and find roles that they're comfortable with at this stage of the game, whether it's, you know, running office or reports in your back office, or, you know, sticking labels on blitz cards. I mean, just anything that you can do to get them involved, I think is immensely helpful.
Yeah, give them a role. I think that when Kris and I got started, I ran the business for the most part, just for lack of time, not that he didn't want to. But then when he started to have more time, I was kind of like, this is my business. I don't know what you're talking about. This is my check, my business, right? We get a little bit big for our britches, but for me, it's the first time that I was ever successful like this, like, or making money. Because I was successful as a teacher. I was a good teacher. But it's the first time that I made that kind of money. Oh. Yeah, I made peanuts as a teacher, right, yeah. So, but for me, I was like, now I have an identity. Like, this is really, really cool, and I owned it. And so then I'm like, well, no, like, why are you getting credit? Why are people coming to you just because you're married to me? You know, you start to get like that. So you gotta drop that as soon as possible, because you wouldn't be in that position if you didn't have a spouse that helped you. And they were learning along the sides, but they just couldn't because they were under restraints with time and work and other commitments. So making sure that they are kept in the loop, and sharing the responsibility. not like a manager to employee, but like to business partners. That will really kind of ease that transition too, because one day they're going to come to you and they're going to ask if they can quit their job.
Just say yes. Just say yes.
No, but I think that would probably be the biggest thing, right? Just making sure that they know both of that stuff, and then not getting frustrated when they want to be active but they don't know what to do, because you kind of didn't train them. You know what I mean? Like, not in a derogatory way, but because if you have a new team member, and you can't expect them to know everything unless you help them along the way. And if you think about it, sometimes we treat our spouses worse than we would a new team member. Like, we expect them that they should know it just because they've been around for the ride. Doesn't mean that they've been paying attention either. So just kind of including them on that.
And then I think lastly, when you have those spouses that are 100% on board with you, I just think it goes back to kind of the defining the roles, with the business now. And part of that might be defining the roles at home as well. Because now you're both working full time. We're both now home all day with the kids. So it turns into kind of a juggling act on how are we going to be most productive for the business. And I think it's really important if you define those roles and you really, you get up each day with a kind of a plan of attack. I know that that's what we try to do, and especially, things just change with the kids now being home for summer, so that kind of throws everything, back in the air again of redefining, how we're going to, get through the next 3 months so they go back to school. That sounds terrible, but you know what I mean? Maybe it's the week in the hotel. But yeah, just really defining those roles, I think, is really important, and giving each other that support on a daily basis. Because there's times where she's frustrated with the business and I pick her up, and then there's times where I'm frustrated with the business and she picks me up. And it really helps if you can, kind of tie into each other and really just, work together. Yeah. This is a huge, huge business opportunity. I don't know who all in the room has fully grasped that yet. We keep re-grasping, I think, the opportunities that we have our hands on. This team, our team will do between $14 and $20 million in sales this year. 2014. We are running, and you all soon will, and I know that, Angie's pulling her way, and Kristen and everybody else, that, multi-million-dollar business. So now you have to start really thinking different. It's just not a little home-based business anymore. We're getting to the point now where we really probably need to hire somebody else to help us, because we're kind of maxed out and we want to take it.
Okay, anytime, but I promise to make more money.
Her resume would be 30 pages long. But yeah, so I start looking at it now, even if you're brand new, start looking at it as a huge business opportunity, because 2, 3, 4 years down the road, you're going to be amazed where you're at with that.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Do you guys have questions really quick? I know we got to get on to the next topic, but sometimes I think this is kind of a burning thing, so.
This was on Facebook.
It says?
This was on Facebook today, Kris, and it's kind of funny, but at the same time, I think it is a question for women. The hair, skin, and nails. The question was raised, will it grow hair where you don't want it? Like the chin.
We have heard not. We have heard, Dr. Don answered that to a no, and it's based on the formulation, and the type of hair follicles are different throughout the body. So supposedly the way it's formulated is supposed to be strictly here. My knowledge.
Except I shave my legs way more than I did, but I haven't noticed like any facial, like hair where I don't normally have hair, I haven't seen extra. Where I have hair, I do.
The question was, women who are postmenopausal or thyroid conditions and some other medical conditions lose eyebrows and get bald patches, will it help that hair grow back in?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's good to know. Thanks.
And maybe estrogen with that too, in that particular situation.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, go ahead.
So with the estrogen, is it I have a little bit of a naturopathic background, a little bit. And so is it important to have testing done before you start that for your hormone levels, or because it works with your natural system, it's okay just to take it?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
you shouldn't have to do
All right.
the testing. Because again, what it's doing is you're not introducing something completely foreign to your body. It's basically just supposed to mimic your natural cycle.
That's great.
So yeah.
Thank you.
Now, did you guys sign up together as distributors, or did you sign him after, or did you enroll as a couple?
Ooh, good question. We're going to talk about compensation in 1 second.
We'll cover that. We'll cover that.
Okay, I have a question about the greens. I have a family member who I think is just extremely toxic, so really they need it more. But the one time they drank the greens, they were so sick, like going to the bathroom all the time, that they won't even take it anymore because they're like, oh my gosh, it's gonna, and I'm like, maybe they could do half the dose. Like, do you have any suggestions? Because I'm like, you need it more, but how do I
Couple of different things with that. You know, we hear all the time, you know, people will say, oh, well, somebody wrapped and now they have the flu. Well, they probably had the flu and it just was a coincidence. So I mean, that could be part of it. But if somebody is extremely toxic, and even with the wrap sometimes, that can create, you know, some situations like that, because again, it is based on the detoxification process. So it definitely is possible that that was part of the situation. And I would back off the dosage. I mean, that's what I would do if it was me, is I would just go ahead and back off the dosage and then slowly work up to that. If they are extremely toxic, eventually they're going to get to the point where they're not as toxic, and then they should be able to, you know, deal with the full dose. I take like 2 to 3 times the amount, typically, you know, throughout the course of the day. So I mean, it's not, and you're not really on it. But yeah, I would definitely just back down and work back up.
Okay, I have a question. It's about products, not about husbands. So I don't have this. But anyways, I've always wanted to ask you, how do you handle questions being in the professional field that you're in? Because we always go off on this subject with products, and there's such limitations on what we can and can't say. How do you handle that? Because I have people who are on my team who are pharmaceutical sales, and they're used to being the person who needs to know everything about every product, and they need to go out and share that. And how do you channel that? Because I know.
Don't. And that's why I was
tried to be very general talking about the products tonight. You don't have to be an expert. Nobody is expecting you to be an expert. You know, I don't know by any means all of the ingredients, all the products and what they do. I can go look them up someplace. I know a lot of, you know, the active ingredients in some of the products, but you don't have to be an expert. You have to know what they do, what the general, you know, general results that you're typically going to expect from it. But I would actually recommend to not get into too much detail, because a couple different reasons. One, you don't want to start making claims about certain things, and as soon as you do that, somebody's going to have a completely different reaction anyway than what you expect. I mean, that's just the way that it works. The second thing is it's very hard to duplicate teaching somebody, you know, the nitty-gritty of the products. And, you know, most medical doctors out there don't have a clue what most of the medications are that they're prescribing. They get educated from a pharmaceutical rep that says, here's the new latest and greatest drug for XYZ, and this is what it does, and this is who you should prescribe it for. They don't have a clue about all the ingredients in those drugs. There's no way that they can possibly keep up with it. It changes on a daily basis, so they just kind of go with a trial and error in the medical field. Kind of scary, but it does. At least our products are not going to have those negative side effects for most people, so keep it very basic.
And people who keep it basic are ambassadors.
Absolutely.
You don't need to know everything.
Absolutely. How many nurses in the room? I love you guys.
How many?
But nurses and chiropractors, chiropractors are really bad at this too, but they want to know all the ingredients. They want to know everything that's in it, and I take them this big pack of stuff, and they go, oh yeah, looks good to me. Because they, again, if they want to really know about a specific ingredient, they're going to go look it up. If there's something that they're not sure about, they're going to go look it up. They're probably not going to go look at 100 ingredients that are in the wrap. There's probably not. Maybe they will. Maybe you might get 1 out of a million that does that, but that's not who we're talking to most of the time. Anybody else?
I have a question, specifically for you. As a man, how do you address, say if you didn't have Nikki by your side, but wrapping women? Like, how would you, because I have a chiropractor friend who he's like, I can't just go up to a woman and be like, oh, hey, you want me to wrap you, baby? You know what I mean? Like,
That's very, very valid.
Yeah.
And then I get that question a lot. A couple of different ways around that. I have Nikki, so I typically will not put myself in that situation because I don't have to.
Right.
If you're a single guy out there and you're working the business, and I know a ton of them out there, they have no problem wrapping women. I think a lot of it has to do, but Steve, no, he doesn't. And a lot of it has to do with your comfort level. If you're, same situation as when I was in practice, and I had to go into a room with a female patient. If I'm confident and I'm comfortable with what I'm doing, and I'm doing everything the way that I'm supposed to, it's a non-issue. Would you agree, Steve? Can you shed some light on that? Yeah, I mean, it's your comfort level. Now, a lot of times there are some guys that just can't get past that, and they really struggle with, I just don't feel comfortable wrapping a female. What they typically will do is they go out and they find a strong female to join their organization. And now they have somebody that, that they can refer for wrapping purposes. Yeah, so there's lots of ways around it. All right, let me get Steve to answer this too, because
what's the question? You just want me to expand on it?
what's your comfort level with wrapping women, and how do you
Yeah, it's just comfort. I mean, and really it's confidence more than, I mean, I think you do it enough and you just come from a place of saying, I got something here that could possibly make a difference for you, and what will make a difference for you. It's just a confidence thing, and I don't really get any resistance. Nobody ever goes, no, I don't want. I mean, if somebody says that I'd rather just do it myself, I say, well, I can show you how. With a wrap that's already been used, just pull out a dummy of it and show them. But it's not. I don't know. I'm comfortable with it, so. I don't wrap guys though. It's weird. So.
I have another question actually for Steve while we're here, but so as I get this all the time, and guys ask all the time, but so you go to blitz somebody, and I know you hand out blitz cards all the time, and you blitz a female specifically, and she looks at you and she says, what do you think, I'm fat? Because I mean, people do that, they have that reaction, so how do you respond?
Yes. I learned this from Pam Sauter. No, but everybody wants one.
Simple. Super simple. No, but everybody, I don't think you're fat, but everybody wants to try it. Right? Yeah, Pamela. Yep.
I have the opposite. I have a guy that joined the team, and his wife is very uncomfortable. So now he's not working the business. Yes. So when I don't know what to do, how to reach out with him, and stuff. Yeah, to make her comfortable.
Well, and I think the biggest thing is, I think you have to try to get her, on board. And I think it's a little easier sometimes to try to get, the female counterparts on board versus the male counterparts. But yeah, I think you just kind of have the same thing. I think you just use the exact same tactics that we talked about with the guys. You just kind of flip it around with her.
Yeah, kind of along those lines. When Jen and I started, we kind of laid the guidelines right off the bat, kind of like Nikki and Kris. But what I do, if I'm by myself, or even if Jen's with me but not right next to me, I always just kind of introduce it as my wife and I have this crazy wrap thing business. I put that out there right away, because then it will kind of reduce that uncomfortableness. But there are still times where I get that look. I still get that look like, yeah, right. I mean, your wife's not even here, and But again, you're going to get no's or yeses either way. So I've just learned to work on it and get better at it as I go along. So.
Awesome. Thank you.
Also, another.
Started now, Kris.
If you get like a little bit of conflict or some resistance, and they're not sure just because you're holding this card, sometimes I'll just say, well, here's my Facebook page, and show them that it's legitimized, and there's friends and other people in the group, and so on and so forth. Then if you like, I could add you to the group and then connect with them at another time. So it's easier sometimes than they're home and they can text back and forth.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the big thing too, is you're always trying to just develop that relationship, and you're not necessarily trying to get that wrap on them or make that sale that exact minute, but you're just trying to develop that relationship, and hopefully they'll get comfortable with you enough to then go on. So
All right, I think we're moving on to compensation. That's always super fun.